Welcome to the most incredible marketing show ever. The show where each week a panel of respected marketing strategists, all trained and certified by the legendary Dan Kennedy, share their wisdom, experience, strategies, and insights on how to use Dan Kennedy's philosophy on business and marketing in any type of business, and that you can apply to your business immediately. Here's your host, Craig Valine.
Hey everybody, I'm Craig Valine and welcome to the most incredible marketing show ever. I'm with my panel of Dan Kennedy certified independent business advisors and experts, friends and peers. Thank you for being here, everybody. Today we're focusing on Dan Kennedy's No BS Wealth Attraction in the New Economy. And for the previous 3 episodes, we've tackled Wealth Magnets 8 through 10. Today we're talking about number 11, and I'll get to that in a second. If you have not read the book, this is not about a book about making money. It's not a book about creating wealth. Both words, making and creating, reinforce what Dan calls the work-money link, a limiting idea that we will change, a chain we will break this month's episode. So words like make or create suggest that you obtain wealth only through and in proportion to effort exerted. So these words imply that wealth comes primarily, if not only, through hard work and through extreme exertion. This book in this episode is about attraction of wealth. And Dan used that word deliberately to make yourself magnetic to money. And so, as I mentioned, we're dealing with Wealth Magnet number 11, demonstration. So in short, are you a walking, talking, living example of what you're selling? And Dan says congruent personal demonstration is very, very magnetic. So Mark, let's start with you today. Talk about this in your business, about why it's important to be the embodiment of what you're selling.
Absolutely. Like I shared a story about my DJ days in the 80s and 90s, and it starts there. To demonstrate your abilities, what I did was I published a record, a 12-inch dance record on vinyl, and I had other DJs playing it. So that was sort of the third-party credentialization. People were pointing to me that I'm the creator. So that demonstration of music production, being able to make people dance, that was one example of demonstration. So I would get hired to do all the clubs and the parties from that demonstration. So anywhere that you can, if you have a magic trick, something that you could do. In one of my businesses, when we were doing lead generation for local businesses, helping them reactivate their customer bases, I had a client that we took their database, put it into our technology, and I sent a reactivation email and text message out to them, to their customer list. And they immediately, within 1 minute, started getting responses and requests for the offer. So the fortunate thing about that was I was recording the screen meeting when I was doing this live in front of my client. So guess what? I had a recorded demonstration of us sending the message out and then seeing dozens of immediate responses and reactivations for a client. So then I was able to scale that business by just simply sharing that demonstration video on how we do it. And that filled the calendar, appointments that wanted to see if we could do it for them. So that's just one example.
Awesome. Very good. Owen, talk about one of the benefits of being the embodiment of what you're selling.
People have very developed BS detectors, and so in my own example, I have examples for and against. So just like you wouldn't be comfortable going to a doctor that smokes, right? There's a disconnect there. Whoa, this guy's going to tell me about health. So believe it or not, I'm a certified strength and conditioning coach. And for my son's 16th birthday, we went to Charles Poliquin's grand opening of his event, the whole thing. And none of the parents or cadets that I coach believe me because I'm a big lardo, right? Except, I've got lots of cadets to nationals, and I've never not been on the podium at provincials, not personally, again, my athletes. But there's a disconnect there. And it's like, what's this chubby going to teach me about how to run faster and shoot and all the rest of it? And it's much harder. They don't take it at face value. Now let's contrast that with Owen the artist. And if I'm selling, oil rig pieces to the oil industry, they're reassured that, yeah, that's me climbing up to the top of the derrick and taking photographs and getting dirty and talking to these guys in their language, and I'm wearing the safety vest and all that stuff, because now in that particular area it looks like I know what I'm talking about because I went out there and got dirty with them. So the message to market match with those fellas is spot on. But at first, there's an artist coming out here today. Oh God, right? That's the thing. Until I get there, and I'm not afraid to get dirty with it. And it's like, if you're going to be a chef, you don't want to be skinny. People distrust you.
Bobby Flay's in big trouble. And Steve, talk about authenticity and why it's important.
Well, yeah, just like we heard, because people are watching. So I'm a marketing consultant. That means I know, and I love the fact that my prospects and my clients are watching my marketing. So every time I send an email, every time I put up a website, every time I run an ad, every time I put a social media post, I understand I'm selling what I'm selling with what I'm selling, which to me is the best way to sell it. So be authentic. Be good at what you're doing. Don't be this takes away from the fraud, the fake gurus, all that nonsense. Like, I can hardly be fake. I've also hosted over 600 events for entrepreneurs and business owners in the Dan Kennedy world. I built the largest Dan Kennedy group by running fantastic events. So people come to me all the time, or attendees of the events. Hey, can you show me how to run events? So there's tremendous value and benefit in doing what you do really well, because that demonstration leads other people to say, hey, can you help me do that? And you ought to be able to help somebody else do it since you've done it yourself.
Yeah, what's funny is I have there was a marketer, a local marketer that I met at a chamber event, and he didn't belong there as much as I didn't belong there. Just my audience wasn't there, but he eventually came to one of my local chapter meetings, and I invited him to be part of the mastermind, which consisted of a 7-step sequence to get them in. And he says, I didn't need another mastermind. I didn't necessarily want it to be around here, but it was Craig's basically being the embodiment, using the type of marketing that would lead people to a mastermind that led him there, was purely because of the marketing that I did. And he says he must know something. So by doing something right, which we just covered in our last episode, but doing things as I profess, as I teach in my marketing, that helped so much in converting him, and he became one of my biggest allies. Still is today. So, Chuck, talk about being incongruent and how that destroys credibility.
Well, that's beautiful. One of the things that I really loved about learning from Dan Kennedy was repel to attract, and so I practice that on a daily basis. I mean, that Owen talked about people's bullshit meter going up, and if you're not congruent with what you're saying, people's antenna will shake, and they'll dump you off the bus or the train, because you aren't authentic. You aren't who you say you are. I would have a hard time promoting people using pronouns other than he, she, because that would not be me. My universal pronoun for people is asshole, because that fits everybody. But I mean, that is being authentic. That when I did my events, I swore. People expected that. I didn't do it on purpose, except sometimes. But you just talk as you do. And I know I have a partner in crime on this panel who does the same thing, Rochelle. So it's great. You can be comfortable everywhere because you are being who you are, and that's very important. So talking to clients the same way. They can't fake it. People will see through them if they're faking it. They need to be who they are, and they will repel people because they are, but they'll attract a stronger audience, which is one of Dan Kennedy's big takeaways for me.
Yeah, Rochelle, talk about how congruency, what other benefits happen because of this. I mean, this is an obvious topic. We just, let's say it out loud, but right now we're tackling the basics of it. So talk about congruency and how that benefits demonstration.
Well, Actually, is it really obvious though?
No.
You know,
It
because
sounds
literally,
obvious.
no. I have a client. Okay, she is phenomenal. She went to MIT. She is very, 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 very brilliant. Okay, she has so many opportunities though. She allowed the SEO on her site to not be up to par. Guess what she sells? SEO. Right? Ay, 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 ay. So the first 90 days, I was like, hey, this is what we get to do. You have to fix that. Yeah. Like, you cannot go to sell SEO because the first person that they're going to do is Google you and see what page you show up for your keywords. What the Oh, okay. My good friend Chuck, right? I was the first one on this episode to say the F-bomb. Yes, 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 for Strauss. Right. It's like, what the hell are you cannot, if you don't have it for your own business, it doesn't work. So one of the things we talked about last week, thank you so much, Craig, for asking me about my breast cancer journey. And I talk about how when I came back, right, I looked at my website, I had 1,400 broken links. I can't sell marketing with 1,400 broken fucking links on my damn website, right? Bitch, fix it now. So had to fix
Where's
it.
the jar?
To make sure that this was the episode that all the cuss words came out. All right.
Demonstration, congruency of who you are. So that's great.
Of who the fuck I am, exactly how I am. So if you don't like it, peace. You know.
Awesome.
If they don't like it, call Chuck.
Yeah. Chuck can comfort you. Dan, what are some of the ways a local business owner could use demonstration in their business?
Well, a big one is demonstrate results. And so if they can show what they've been able to do to help their client, their customer, what the product did to help their client or customer, that's one of the best ways. And I think it was Owen who talked about people have this BS meter anymore that it's so tough to get through. And so something that I use is I talk a lot about results, and I use case studies, and that's Dan Kennedy's style. When Dan is talking in front of the room, he taught me that he always ties a story in, a client, what have you, into how it worked. And another thing that I got from him a number of years ago, he wrote out his Look Over My Shoulder newsletter. And for those of you that saw it, those of you that didn't, he would take every month a case study of a client or two and show us what he did for them and why he did it and how he did it and what language he used and so on and so forth. And I started to look over my shoulder for my clients. When I heard him talk about that, I went, wow, because a lot of people were going, how are you doing that? What are you doing every month? And so if you can show them and talk about results that you've been able to get to, I like to call them success stories, how you've been able to help people do that. And so, take stories that are relatable to what you're trying to sell or what you're trying to get your folks to do. And one example, I talked in a previous episode about voice broadcast. A lot of people, it's amazing to me how many people fear that. And it's such a great media that it's inexpensive, it's personal. I send out voice broadcasts to my lists on a regular basis so that they get to see how that works. And, I don't just talk the talk, I walk the walk. And that's one way I demonstrate. But I think, another way that I've been able to do that, and I think a lot of you have done this too, was with my mastermind group. We did a book where we included each one of our mastermind members, allowed them to have a chapter, compilation book. And so helped them along the way, put the book together. They put their chapters in it, and off we went. And I partnered with Dan Kennedy on the Ultimate Success Secret and did that with my mastermind members. So that was a way to help them see the power of being an author, having a book out there, being tied to a New York best-selling author.
Nice. Yeah, Steve, Dan Kennedy has rules for running his business, and as far as I know, he keeps his word on every part of it. Talk about keeping your word about the rules you set for in your business.
Well, I think the key thing is, like you just said, is as far as anyone knows.
Right.
So that's what's important, is what people perceive about you, right? Perception is reality. So Dan says, I don't use the internet. How do we know he doesn't use the internet? He talks about it a lot. He says he doesn't a lot. He doesn't use a cell phone. So we got to be we can put stuff out there, be consistent. Just don't be inconsistent with it, right? We don't know if Dan doesn't have a cell phone, but we don't ever see him using a cell phone. So it's important for you to demonstrate congruity. Like I said, if I say I record a video every day, then I record a video every day. If I say every day I wake up and look out my window and I see palm trees and cactus, and I think I'm living in paradise, I'm on vacation, I put on a stupid red Hawaiian shirt every day. And I do that every day. So you're not going to see me wearing something else. You don't know if I ever wear something else, but I'm going to make sure that what my audience sees, I'm congruent with.
Very cool. We have to take a quick break for a message from our sponsor. We'll be right back. Ben, let's talk about dramatic demonstration. So we, like me as a marketing consultant at my local events, I might do a hot seat to show how I can solve a problem. What are some other ways that people can use dramatic demonstration to show that they're good at what they do and show that they're the expert?
This episode of The Most Incredible Marketing Show Ever is sponsored by Chuck Troutman, the $600 million man. If you're looking to grow your sales and, more importantly, your profits, now is the time to work with someone who has been responsible for $600 million in sales for himself and his clients. Get your free guide, Entertain Your Way to Profits, at www.chucktroutman.com. That's www.chucktroutman.com. Now, back to the show.
So Ben, in that book, in Wealth Attraction, No BS Wealth Attraction, Dan talks about dramatic demonstration. Houdini used it in jails to get out of. He said he could get out of any jail. Tony Robbins uses the firewalk. What are some other ways that you've seen or heard about using dramatic demonstration for an entrepreneur?
Yeah, well, I do a lot like in the software space. So anytime I'm showing something like live when I'm showing my screen, that tends to be very dramatic in terms of like showing that something is actually working. And this goes to kind of that in the software world, the term eating your own dog food, which is that you're actually using your product or service that you're promoting. And so if any chance you get to show that you're using this and that it works and that you're like not afraid to do it on the fly or do it live, I think that makes an impression for people, because we are conditioned to, like Owen said, we have that BS meter. We're conditioned to the non-dramatic demonstrations where it's like, the cooking show where they put the raw ingredients in and then pull the cooked thing out. And you're like, well, maybe that worked. Maybe that, maybe that didn't. But the more that you can see a product or service being used real time, that communicates that you have confidence in your product, and that your potential customer can also have confidence in that. Or like like what we do with just asking live questions in real time, or like hot seats. It's the ability to demonstrate your knowledge, your ability to think on your feet, your problem solving. All of that is an opportunity just to show what these things are really like, so that people, I think what it does is, in that case too, like if you're promoting a mastermind group and you do a live hot seat, like on a Zoom call promoting it, people can start to see themselves in that situation, because it's visceral. It feels live. It feels real, and that's one of the things we've talked about in all of these last few episodes is either taking real action or being like a real you that's out there, or being, in real spaces. So this idea of this kind of demonstration just makes everything so much more real.
Yeah. So Joe, talk about congruency again. So you're a business owner and you're asking somebody to do something, but you don't do it. What's the effect?
The effect is the BS meter goes up because they're not going to believe you. They're not going to know. They're not going to really be confident enough that it's going to work. What you're asking them to do. Okay. Again, it's a matter of proving that you've done it, or at least you've done it with some other clients. I think that's really the biggest thing here in order for them to know that. But if you're not doing it, if you're not out there marketing yourself, getting information out, then they're going to be like, well, what does he really know? Let me go look around, see if I can find somebody else. That's kind of the way I look at it.
Yeah. So let's wrap up here. So Steve, a leaving tip. Before we do that, it's like one of the things that I see most about this particular topic is like if Martha Stewart, didn't live the luxury lifestyle that she lives, but she lived in an apartment outside of New York City, maybe in Connecticut, but touted that she's all these things, she's into beautiful flowers and gardens, but doesn't have a flower or a garden or anything. There's a lot of people that I find online who promote Facebook ads, but don't do Facebook ads. They promote, hey, how to become $1 million speaker, but they're not $1 million speaker. How to become, how to publish your first book, but they don't have a published book. So that's really what this is about. It's about being a walking example of what you're selling, what you preach, what you do, keeping your word. And so, Steve, let's wrap up with one final tip, 30 seconds or less, on number one, being credible, being congruent.
My tip is to do it in the other direction. So don't just say you're selling something and then, oh, now I have to be that way. When I get a new client first, I got 100 ways to skin the cat. If I suggest one certain tactic you do and you don't like it, we'll find another one. So find something you love to do. And then I would say it's almost foolproofly easy to be congruent doing it. So if you do something you don't like, I guess you're gonna portray yourself differently. So first, make sure you're finding something you like. Make sure, I like doing a video, so I do a daily Facebook Live video. If I don't like writing, but I like doing videos, I do videos. If I don't like doing videos, but I like writing, I'll do a daily blog post. Find something you love to do. Makes it easier to be congruent in your demonstration.
Awesome. Mark, final tips.
Absolutely. If you're looking for demonstration, when I think of demonstration, I'm always thinking of the Taekwondo schools doing the demo, to recruit students and stuff. But everybody does it, right? Everybody has a demonstration. If you're looking to really stand out, separate yourself from your competition, really be the 1%. If you want to make it a dramatic demonstration and separate yourself from your competition to be that top 1%, I got a tool for you. And it's a tool that's going to give you dramatic demonstration. It's going to make you be somebody, be somewhere. And what was the other topic we did this month? Do something. And I wouldn't be self-serving and biased if I didn't say you need to get your own published book. Because by doing this is to me, the biggest demonstration of, sharing your stories, your client, everything wrapped up in one. It tells who you are, who you stand for, who you stand against. All of this is shared in the book, and it's dramatic demonstration because less than 1% of your competition is even ever going to be a published author. So that's just my self-serving and biased opinion.
Thank you. That was very good. Dan, final tips, 30 seconds or less.
Well, one of the best ways I find it to be congruent and self-serving, if you will, is when I get a new client or a client that I'm trying to get on board, I do whatever I can to learn as much as I can about them. So when I talk to them, I know. In example, I had one person that I was talking to for about 10 or 15 minutes about a coaching program. And after about 10 minutes, he goes, I feel like you spent the last week in my office. I demonstrated to him right there in front of him that I knew what he was dealing with, what his challenges were, and how he was responding. And so I'll share a resource with folks. It's called a book called Dare to Prepare by, I think his first name is Ron, but it's Shapiro, Dare to Prepare. And he talks about how that's helped him be one of the top sports agents in the world.
Awesome. Thank you. Chuck, final words of wisdom, tips.
So the tip is that, if you are truly going to be authentic, and you should be, it will give you the luxury of being able to live your life and conduct your business on your own terms. You will not have to fake what you're doing for your business, because that's really who you are. And I believe we should all be that way. And if we are who we are, people who like who we are will follow us fervently, and those who don't like who we are will not, and that's just fine with all of us. We should not be in a place where we want to be liked by everybody, because there's no way in hell we can be.
Good. Ben, final words, final tips.
If you can really embody like who you say you are to the marketplace and what your product or service does, if you can do all of that, that's going to make your life so much more sustainable. You won't have as many issues with taking action or being out there. It really just lines up everything in terms of what you're trying to promote to who you are, and your audience will know it. Their BS detector will not be going off, and they will be drawn to you magnetically, which is the way that you are going to really be able to add in wealth that you wouldn't otherwise, because that alignment is it just makes things work on a level that you couldn't do step by step. It draws people in.
Awesome. Very good. Joe, final words, 30 seconds or less.
All right, let me count that down. No, seriously, it's really all about being the consistency. Get it out there, do it. If it's weekly, I mean, take a look at Steve Sipress. He's doing a 5-minute podcast video all the time, and he's consistent with it. So that's part of it. Get the message out there, be consistent, and even mix in some stories of people successful with you. That's it.
Awesome. Rochelle, final words of wisdom.
Sure. This whole series this month has been about wealth attraction, right? And by demonstrating who you are to the world, it will allow those that love you to love you and those that don't care for you to move the fuck on, so that we never have to worry about them again.
Awesome. Very, very concise. Owen, final tips.
So make sure I don't have Steve Itis here. Yeah, we're on. Zing. So in terms of demonstrations, you talked about Tony Robbins and Houdini. A lot of people hear that and think they got to be the ShamWow guy.
Right.
And if you're not the ShamWow guy, my highest advice is don't try to be the ShamWow guy.
Right.
And the simplest way that I know to get people involved in what you do is to show something behind the scenes. Open the kimono, go behind the curtain, whatever metaphor you want. And so if you go to an art show, and I've told artists this for 15 years, do a demonstration. And at any art show, where the biggest crowds are is where they're literally watching paint dry. It's not calisthenics and jumping around and showgirls. And for some reason, as we're drawn to that. Is that a pun? Didn't mean to be a pun. I mean, so if it's the short form video that's so popular now, those 30-second to 2-minute videos, is a perfect place for this. I mean, we'll sit there and millions of people watch some yuts make an omelet like it's eggs, and we can't smell it. We don't get to taste it. He doesn't even say anything. It's just skink, 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 and then he pours the eggs in the pan, and we're all watching it. And then there's if they're smart, there's an ad for the spatula or the pan or the butter or whatever. And you don't need to be the ShamWow guy. Just show them what you do and how you do it. And that's enough.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. I want to say, on my 10th anniversary of the local chapter, I had 7 of my best members and clients come up and sit at the front of the room and have them tell their story. And I asked them specific questions that made me look good. That, what advice did you get from me that helped you go to this place, and that sort of thing. So my advice is that if you can't physically demonstrate what it is you do, get your clients, members, patients, etc., to do it for you, because that's again, power of testimonials and accolades. So I want to thank everybody for being on this episode of the most incredible marketing show ever. Thank you to my panel, my expert panel, independent business advisors for Dan Kennedy. And I want to thank you, the watcher or the listener, wherever you're experiencing this show. I appreciate you and so glad you're here. We're here every Thursday. But we have a gift for you if you haven't grabbed it already at mostincrediblemarketingshowever.com. That's mostincrediblemarketingshowever.com. We'll see you next Thursday. Thanks so much.
So long.
Thank you for joining us this week on The Most Incredible Marketing Show Ever. New episodes are available every week on Thursdays. To receive a free gift pack from our expert panelists and get access to show notes from previous episodes, be sure to visit our website, www.mostincrediblemarketingshowever.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and click the bell up in the right-hand corner to be notified of future episodes so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate you clicking the like button and leaving a comment on what big aha you got during the show. That's it for today's episode. See you next week.